Welcome to the Driven Dental Podcast, where all things dental drive our curiosity to have meaningful conversations about self-development, business scalability, and prioritizing people over profits. This podcast will leave you ready to drive your practice to new levels of success. I am Matt Robinson, COO and co-founder of Operation Dental, writer of the Driven Dental Practice, and your host. Dentistry is about its people. Let's hear from them. All right, we are here today with Josh Reynolds, who is our operations manager.
Hi.
And he and I work really close together, and we have started working out together. So we spend a lot of time together, and that is why I asked him to be here for a 2024 recap. I feel like both of us really actually leveled up this year, made a lot of progress. You feel the same?
Yeah, you could say that.
I think we, on both life and the business, there were a lot of changes for us that we made, and a lot of growth, a lot of things we did right. So we're going to go today into the top 5 things that I could think of that I felt like in 2024 we did really well, and hopefully people can learn from what has worked for us. So one of the biggest lessons that I learned in 2024 was the value of a coach. And this is something that I think a lot of people talk about a lot, but it's hard to find a coach that relates to you and that is going to really be the right fit for you. So, and this is more on a personal level, but this is how I learned like the true value of a coach, because I had never really had one in business or in fitness. But in fitness, for me, when I was 25, I started getting into powerlifting. There happened to be a gym across the street from where I lived called Orlando Barbell, and I was in my early mid 20s. And I went over there, and they were the biggest, strongest guys that I had ever seen. And having been into football and wrestling and just, outdoor activities, strength from that age just became kind of just my thing. Like I was just passionate about it. So I worked out with them kind of on the side, and they would see me long enough to start, eventually guys like that start talking to you, or like you can ask them for lifting advice, whatever. But I never had a like true one-on-one coach. Mm-hmm. And what happened was I would look things up online. I would follow a program, and I would get stronger, but there would be something that happened that the consistency was the problem. Mm. So there were times throughout, let's say 25 to 35, that I would get decently strong for what I think I'm capable of.
Like for a season?
For a season.
Mm-hmm.
But I never really got to where I was like hitting my ultimate goals. Mm-hmm. So like my ultimate goal was to get to a 405 pound bench press, 4 plates, and a 600 pound deadlift. And I got into the mid 3s for a bench and mid 5s for a deadlift. But for whatever reason, I would hit some sort of plateau. Something would happen, an injury or just taking a break, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I followed a book off and on. Whenever I was working out, I would follow a book by a guy named Josh Bryant, who when he was 18, he's about the same age as me, so 25 years ago, when he was 18, he had the strongest raw bench press in history. He was the first to do 600 pounds raw.
At 18?
At 18.
Wow.
And this fitness was his life. He wrote a number of books, and he now trains the number 1 bench press person in the world, Julius Maddox, who most likely would be the first to bench press 800 pounds.
Whoa.
So he literally trains the strongest bench presser in the world. And it just hit me. It was the summer of this year. I just reached out to him on his website and just asked what was involved with his coaching. How much did it cost? What's it like and all that? He responded back with an email basically saying, unless you're going to follow everything I tell you, it's not worth my time. It's one of those. It's like he's very serious. He coaches elite bench pressers and just strength athletes. So I got on a phone call with him and told him my goals. He said, we'll do a trial month or so. And if things work out, then we'll keep going. So first month went really well. And what I ended up doing is signing on with him for a year. And so now every week he sends me my workout. So there's no more guessing. He tells you everything you're supposed to do. You give him feedback on how the workout went, and you keep adjusting, changing from there. He's available on email. He's available by phone. And it has just been such a game changer for me with fitness, with the biggest problem with most people, staying consistent. Because when you're working with somebody that elite, like you just don't want to let them down.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. And I mean, like I've been able to kind of piggyback off of it just because now I'm working out with you in your garage too, and just following your program, but obviously at a lesser weight, but doing the same exercises that you're doing. So it's been really cool to see your progress from the summer to now, and where you're going to go in the next 6 months too.
Yeah, and your progress too.
Yeah,
like your bench press is up 50 pounds in the past couple months.
Yeah,
it's insane. But the power of that is what really has struck me, because it's so important, I think, to reach your goals, to be coachable. And once you find the right coach and you are coachable, it's been an amazing combination for me with what you really need in fitness. It's about the results. So how many people do you know that have been going to the gym for years that look exactly the same, or that are bench pressing the same amount of weight?
Because they don't have someone pushing them, or that's holding them accountable, that they have to report to, like, yeah, I did do those weights. And like with your coach, he's changing stuff out. When you had an injury, all right, let's not do that type of exercise. Let's do it a different way so it doesn't hurt you, where your elbow's hurting. And then, a couple weeks later, it felt better. You went back to the other exercise, and where he just changes stuff up. So,
well, and those people too, a lot of them, they go to the gym because everybody just thinks you just have to go to the gym, but that doesn't mean you get the results.
Yeah.
And I've just had amazing results in just the last 6 months by following a strict program with somebody that I look up to for what he's done. And I know whatever program he gives me, I'll get the benefit and results from it way faster than I would have on my own.
I think part of it though is just how you're wired too. Like I'm impressed extremely by your discipline, because you don't get distracted and do something different. You're like very regimented on exactly what he says. It's like if you deviate just a little bit, then you're just going to like go way off track. And so you're like, yourself, and like I need to do exactly what he says. He's the expert, and you're just going to follow what he says. And you've seen the results over 6 months. So why not keep doing that?
Yeah. No, if you, for me, how I'm wired, if I break character, or if I don't do something I know I'm supposed to do, it just is not good.
It snowballs. Yeah. It becomes something so much worse.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool to see your consistency, because I mean, life is hard and it's not easy getting up early when you have little kids. And I'm sure you're going to get to talking about how you kind of balance all of that, but it's really hard when you have really little kids that don't sleep through the night, and then you still consistently get up every morning before work, lift weights for 2 hours, and then still go about your day, and still are, super dad on top of that. So it's hard to be consistent. But your discipline's what's really impressive, is that you show up every single day.
Well, and having you there now, really, it helps so much.
Yeah, because you don't want to let the Josh down, but you don't want to let me Josh down as well, because I'm there. I'm going to be there too. So
For sure. One other note with that is along those lines, when let's just say you're working with somebody you really respect and you don't want to let them down, your feelings matter way less than if it's just you. We'll let ourselves down
all the time,
so much easier than we would let someone else.
But then it's
down.
also like no one's going to challenge you on it. Like no one knows that you let yourself down other than you.
For sure.
But it's a lot harder when you have to face someone else about it too.
Yep. Yeah, and the other part of that is the diet, which I still struggle with a lot more than the actual lifting. But there's a guy named Stan Efferding who he's a bigger name in dieting, especially with powerlifting and bodybuilding. But he has a book. He's on major podcasts, and I paid for 1 month of the whatever elite level of his coaching as well, and he gave me the outline of what to follow. And it was just, there wasn't as much accountability for that just because I care more about the lifting. They both go hand in hand. But for me, it's just as long as I lift, the diet is a little bit secondary.
Yeah, but also I've seen when you stray from it a little bit, you can tell when you go to lift. You're like, oh, I need to change that back up. I'm eating too much of this or not enough this. And it's pretty cool like how the balance of protein and carbs and fats, how it affects what you can do exercise wise. There's been times where you're like, oh, I need to eat more carbs to be able to lift heavier. Yeah. Because they feed you the energy. So that's been
for years. The only diet that's ever worked with me was keto.
Yeah.
So I would lose a lot of weight really fast on keto, but then when I would stray, I'd gain it all back so quickly. And this guy's program has opened my eyes to the balance of the protein and the carbs with not going overboard.
Yeah.
So it's definitely improved. I've lost a lot of weight this year and gotten stronger, which is difficult to do. So yeah, I can't overstate the value of a coach enough after going through this and staying consistent. So
how does that translate to the business side though?
For me, if you look at, let's just say mind, body, spirit, and mind is work, body is fitness. If I'm out of alignment with body, nothing else is where it should be. Mm-hmm. So my mindset is I prefer to work out first thing in the morning. Don't have to. I prefer to work out first thing in the morning because that sets the tone for my whole day. And I know if I don't, it might not happen later.
Yeah.
So if it's already done, it can't possibly not happen.
And it's important.
And I don't have to stress about it.
And those late night workouts that we've done, they just wire you because they give you energy. So it's better to have that energy throughout the day when you're going to be working than when you need to go to sleep.
For sure. Yeah, we'll talk
made
about
that mistake before.
Too many times. So the next lesson really, or what has worked for me and you too in this, balancing kids, work, and fitness. So you have 2 middle schoolers.
You have 2 toddlers.
2 toddlers.
And our lives are different, but also in some ways the same.
Yes. So what are some of the challenges you have?
I mean, it's just balancing. Right now, I feel like half the time when I'm at home, I'm a glorified Uber driver. Like, kids have stuff that they have to do. There's always, something going on the weekends. So it's just, there's a lot of driving after work, going to school, stuff like that on the weekends. But then, all the stuff that piles up, as like during the week. So it's like trying to catch up on the weekends, like housework, laundry, all that kind of stuff. My days stay pretty busy. Mm-hmm. So, and then just trying to balance out, spending time with my kids and my wife and family, like doing family things too. So trying to balance putting in a good effort at work and working out in the mornings and, doing all the other things around the house and with family. It just, sometimes there's not enough hours in the day. Mm-hmm. And some days my head hits a pillow and I'm ready to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So same with me, just at a different age range. My daughter turned 2 right before the year started. And then Grayson, my son, was born on January 7th. So this entire 2024, the biggest challenge is sleep.
Yeah.
Like the first 7 months, Grayson did not sleep through the night one time. We had to feed him.
Now he sleeps good.
He sleeps good now, and now, of course, it's Ella's turn. Who doesn't sleep good at all. At some point during the night, she's up screaming, for mama and dada. So that has been a major challenge. Sleep and functioning on sleep. And then it was going back to what you're saying, how your schedule has to adapt to them to some degree. Mm-hmm. Because if both kids are awake when you're normally working out and you need to watch one of them, or whatever the situation is, mm-hmm. where you can't work out your normal workout time. That means you have to adjust your schedule. And there were times that I prefer to go to bed at 9 p.m. There were times I was starting my workout at 10 or 11 even, because I couldn't miss.
Yeah. And the day there's too many things going on throughout the day.
So I was working out super late. You were
exhausted because your kid wasn't sleeping.
Yeah. So whenever they would go to sleep is when I would work out sometimes. And it's just the way it is. It's just mm-hmm. the challenges, and that's the balance you have to create. What has worked for me the best is when I can wake up early, get the workout done, then do work all day mm-hmm. till it depends. 5, 6, whatever the time is. And then from 6 until their bedtimes, 8:30, 9 o'clock, it's just all family. Mm-hmm. So it's just those 3 things. And that has, as long as I stay focused on that and like know what needs to happen, and that whatever I'm doing at those different times has all of my attention, I've been able to compartmentalize the work-life balance or work-kids balance, work-family balance pretty well. The thing with that has helped me the most, and what you were talking about with not having time, is getting rid of everything that wastes time mm-hmm. as much as possible. So typical things are social media, mm-hmm. Netflix. For me, it was video games for a long time. Mm-hmm. Before the kids, I would work really hard, and then at night, pretty much every night, I would play video games for like 2 hours, mm-hmm. and it got to the point where so there's this Steam, which is where you play the video games through, that's where your list of games are, keeps track of how many hours that you've played.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
And the particular game we were playing was, at some point, I don't remember when, and it must have been at the end of 2023, I was at 2,000 hours.
For the year or just total?
No, total for that game, but it had been out maybe 5 years.
Okay.
But I just remember thinking, like, gosh, if I had spent half of that time doing something productive, mm-hmm. and it was just that, with the combination of not having time, with Ella being almost 2 and then Grayson on the way, I chose to cut that out of my life completely. And it didn't, you would think that, like, your outlet or whatever, like, you think that you need to have, mm-hmm. It didn't matter. It didn't faze me a bit. It wasn't important because I had other things now that were more important. So I wouldn't recommend like cold turkey, maybe quitting everything, but like maybe push yourself a little bit to
cut back
on things you think you need to have, mm-hmm. that in the grand scheme of things aren't bringing you any closer to where you want to be ultimately. So for me, my biggest struggle, believe it or not, was video games, and playing significantly less or none of them in 2024 was really critical, I think, in me growing and what mattered to me now, which was the fitness, work, family.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I can echo a lot of those same things. Like when I play video games, it's usually, with my kids. I don't usually play anymore like I used to before I had kids. And, social media, I didn't realize how much it sucked up time and just wasted time. And so I deleted Facebook, Instagram like 2 years ago, and
nice.
I don't miss it at all. Just because I would spend so much endless time just sitting on the couch scrolling after work, and then my kids would come ask for stuff, and then I'd be like so distracted. And now I can actually be more present with them. So it's definitely helped a lot too. And I haven't missed it one bit.
Yeah.
So, but that's just me.
I think if you have an honest conversation with yourself, whatever the things are that you're doing, spending time on that you don't need to do, whatever those things are.
One of the things that you've also suggested that has helped immensely is just, besides cutting out things that you don't need to do, is things that have to get done, but maybe if you're able to pay somebody else to do them. So I, in 2024, finally got someone to do my lawn, which in Florida in the summertime, I am very thankful that there's somebody else cutting my grass. It would take at least 2 Saturdays a month, like most of my Saturday, to cut the lawn, weed, edge, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just really thankful to have that time that I can, go do stuff with my family, or I can, spend that time doing something else. So now all the chores and everything that we normally would do on a weekend, the amount of time is a lot shorter, because I was the one who always did all the outdoor grass stuff. So it's been really, really helpful having, a lawn person, landscaping company do it all.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll talk more about that in a minute. One other point on balancing kids' work and fitness and making time. I think at least this is what it was like for me. A lot of people, and for me specifically, I had a hard time creating some time because of relationships I had.
Okay.
So going back to the video game thing, my cousin, who I've been super close with my whole life, he and I would game together pretty much every night. The difference is his head can hit the pillow every night and he's perfectly fine with no matter how lazy or no matter how little he accomplished in a day, he's happy, he's content. And that's great for him. He goes to bed at night, no regrets. If I waste time in my eyes, I go to bed with regrets. And so I had to have that difficult decision was, do I maybe disappoint this person in order to move forward with something else that mattered to me?
Or do you keep going and disappoint yourself?
Or do you keep going and disappoint yourself? Yeah. So for balancing and cutting out things at a time, if it's hard to cut out people that you're close to and that maybe they're bringing you down or pulling you away from what you need to do. And sometimes you just got to have an honest conversation with them or yourself.
And find another, way to have a relationship with them, or another activity or something that doesn't, disappoint you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if I go down that road again, then I know that it'll the same reaction will start happening again. So I have to guard myself, maybe with different people, or maybe with diet. Maybe there's somebody that every time you're with them for whatever reason, you feel like you have to go out to eat and eat terrible.
Yeah. And
so just think of something more constructive to do with that person rather than bring it down. Okay. So going back to what you were saying about time, the third thing for 2024 was my view on time has changed now that I'm a little older and have kids.
Yeah.
So I'm 42 now, have 2 young kids, and the time constriction is insane for having kids to not having kids. Your freedom doesn't exist anymore.
No, the amount of time that you have that you have to commit to them throughout the day, like where does it go sometimes? And it flies so much faster too. Yeah. Like there's a saying that the days are really long, but then the years are quick. Like I look back at the different stages of my kid's life, and the challenges that I had 3, 4, 5 years ago are completely, those challenges don't even matter anymore. They're different. I have completely new things going on. Yeah. And so the stage that your kids are in now, like they'll sleep one night eventually throughout the night, and they'll consistently do that. So you won't have the problem of them waking up at 2:00 in the morning every night screaming for dada. But in a couple of years, you'll have other problems or other challenges. But that's life. That's parenting. It's a fun challenge, but man, the time gets away from you throughout the day.
Yeah. Well, it forces you to think about time differently. Yeah. And, it's real easy to say like, time is our most valuable asset because you can never get it back and there's only so much of it. And it's true. But on the same level, you just have to guard your time like never before. When you have a goal or you have some sort of mission, there are endless distractions.
And what's your number one advice for that? Like to guard your time? Like what's worked for you?
What's worked for me? I think hitting pause before you answer. Well, let me start off. I would say the first thing you need to do is, there's a saying that show me your calendar and your bank statements and I'll show you your future. So okay. I think you need to spend some time really thinking about your day and tracking what your days really actually look like, because a lot of times I think people feel like they don't have time when they actually do because they're wasting it in other areas. So I think getting a real honest view with data of what your days look like
and what you're spending your money on and what you're spending your time on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
you do that inventory.
Yeah, you collect your inventory and then you see what you can get rid of first. That's the easiest thing to do. The next phase or level to that is what you were talking about, which is buying more of your time.
Yeah, things that have to get done, but maybe you don't have to be the one to do it.
Yep.
And if you're if you're able to have someone else do it.
Yeah. So not everybody's in that position yet.
No.
But there are certainly, especially with us working in dental, there's some people that make really good money in dental. And I think for them or anybody looking to grow, whatever stage you're at, you have to look at buying more time and as an investment in yourself and using that time that you're buying to be more productive or grow in a way that if you were doing these other things, it wouldn't happen. Because there's so many, just like people who go to the gym year after year and don't grow, there's so many people who work year after year and don't grow.
Yeah.
And buying more time gives you that opportunity to do it. The trick is you have to act on it when you have that time. So let's say your example. You hate mowing the yard.
Especially in August in Florida. It's so hot and it would take 5-6 hours of my Saturday.
So look at your finances. Don't go out to eat 2 or 3 times in a month.
Pay for it.
Pay a yard guy.
Yep.
And do something productive with that
now
time.
I have 12 to 24 hours a month.
Right.
Depending on if it's winter or summertime.
Right. So depending on your job, there are people all day, every day who are trying to get your time. And you have to press pause before answering. Because even if you're the easiest person to give the answer, it doesn't always mean you should be.
Okay.
Because you have to, it depends on your job. But let's say you're an office manager and you want to continue growing in the company. If you're doing the job of everybody who works under you, then you're not progressing because you're spending all your time doing things that other people could be doing, which in turn devalues you. So if you're at a certain level in in where you're making whatever you're making, if you can figure out a way to afford somebody to do things you don't want to do that are a lesser pay grade, it's worth that investment in yourself to buy that time in order for you to work on things that will help you progress.
Okay.
So if you're like an office manager, let's say, if you're bogged down doing entry level stuff, you'll never progress into a regional manager because you're not growing enough. You're not taking the time to work outside of the business on the business.
Not thinking big picture stuff
because you're working in the business so much. And the same is true with life. Like if you're mowing your yard every Saturday and you haven't been to the gym for a year, pay someone to mow the yard and go to the gym on the Saturday.
Yeah.
You know?
And then you still have hours to do all kinds of other things.
Right. It could kickstart so many positive things for you.
Like, yeah, for sure. It's been great because I've been able to spend those Saturdays, doing more things with my family, going on walks, going to places, spending time with them, playing games, building Legos, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Just growing spending my time with my family on,
Yeah.
And it's been helpful because I feel like I have more downtime now because of that. And so I've been able to kind of, just separate it from like a little bit more work-life balance just because I don't have to mow the lawn. Like it was another thing that I thought of as work, even though it wasn't like work, it was something that took a lot of time. And so now I have more of that balance time, which has in turn helped me have more energy to just come back the next day when I'm ready to work and just crush.
Yep.
So it's been one of the most helpful things that I never really even thought of.
Yeah.
Like it's so much more valuable than, the cost of a landscaping person to come. So much more valuable.
Yeah. Well, looking at it like in our business, for example, you and I handle the operations of 17
practices,
17 offices now, 250 something employees. If we're doing low level work that needs to get done by somebody, but if we're doing it and there's somebody else better that we can pay to do that work, it gives them a job and it allows us to continue growing, doing things that they couldn't do. Like you need to work on the things that only you can do to continue to grow.
Yeah, that's kind of how I started with you guys and how I've progressed. Like when I started, we had, I think, 6 or 7 offices. We were just starting to go up into Jacksonville. We just had the first office. And that you guys purchased that like a month or 2 before I started back in 2021. And like I started off because as we were growing, you were doing a lot of things that took a lot of your time and you weren't able to spend time doing the things that you're really good at. And so you're like, I need someone to help me with a lot of these administrative tasks, a lot of these things. As you get bigger, as we've grown, like you also couldn't be at all the offices all the time. And so your time gets way more valuable and you get stretched really thin. And so as I came on board and kind of just learned from you and kind of did all the things that you needed help with and got to know everyone at the offices and seeing what help that they needed that you're just not even in there. So you don't even know all the things that they're like needing help with or having questions about. Like we've been able to solve a lot of problems. And as we've grown, like I've also grown through that. And now it's getting to the point where now I have like, other people on our team that I can dispatch to help when there's a problem because they're more specialized at it. Like I know a lot about dental equipment, but when, their suction doesn't work specifically on a chair, that's a little bit more above my realm, but I can dispatch the right person who can fix that. So it's been really cool just seeing in the, 3-4 years that I've been here, just where we started with like 6-7 offices when I started to now we have 17, that growth, but then my own personal growth at work on all the different things that I started doing to what I'm doing now. And like, as my role has grown.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for anybody who's looking to level up or grow, you have to view your time and what you do differently. You have to say no to things that don't matter. And focus on, you got to execute on the priorities. and other things don't matter that used to.
Yeah. There's been a lot of things where I've seen that you're just like, you've said no, or you've pushed back, or you've routed them to another appropriate person that can handle that better. And so you definitely taught me that skill. And I've been also, you doing that a lot. I think for a little while in like 2000, earlier part of 24, we just had like a season of no. It was just so.
Well, if you value yourself, you have to do that. You have to invest in yourself. And if you're not where you want to be, look at what you're doing, pay to, if things that you're doing is keeping you from growing, get someone else to do it or get rid of it somehow.
Or just make changes. Like, you wanted to grow weightlifting, so you hired a coach, and then you just started doing it. And now you have someone that's holding you accountable. And then I'm coming in, and you don't want to disappoint the coach, but also like if I show up and knock on your door when it's still dark outside to go work out, and you're like, oh no, I want to sleep. I don't want to work out today. Like, you're disappointing me too.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So again, the reminder on this, it's all about results, and sometimes you have to pay to get better results quickly. And it doesn't make sense not to. Again, you just devalue yourself if you continue to do things that you don't even need to do.
It also depletes your energy too. So you don't have the energy to do the things that matter.
Yeah.
Like, I have so much more energy spending time with my kids, and I have so much more energy at work. Just by working on the priorities, the things that move the needle, the things that are important for me personally, for my family, for the company.
Yep. It allows you to be present.
Yes, so much more. And like cutting out the distractions.
Yeah.
So for sure.
Awesome. Okay. Number 4. So that's kind of the end of the personal aspects of 2024. For the business, we had a major realization, I think at the September of 24, where our bank that used to be heavily into dental told us that they're not going to lend to dental groups anymore. And for us to continue to grow the company, we were going to need to find a new bank. The problem was we had grown we had structured our company for growth, which a traditional bank is not always comfortable with. They're more conservative with growth. And there's been a clash with trying to find a new bank who understands our structure.
Because it's a little complicated.
It's overly complicated, which we are fixing. But at the time, it wasn't complicated because we had a bank who signed off on it, and we were growing with that structure. But long story short, there was a huge, like, oh boy, like, how are we going to continue to grow when we don't have, when our main bank won't lend to us? And it's difficult to find another bank because we've grown so fast. Most of them are not comfortable with it. So we had to kind of go back to the drawing board on the company itself. And I had a realization that we've had a fast growing company, but our company's not as strong as it should be financially. So
we got to do some weightlifting of our own on the company too.
Yeah, and some meal prepping. But I just realized we both realized we need a stronger company that's more profitable.
Yeah.
And so we're going to make another video soon about what we're going to do in 2025 to grow the company, because we've already started and we're making strides in the right direction. So everything's going to be fine. It's just, I think for me, the lesson was not to get comfortable, not to get complacent. No matter how well you think you're doing,
there's room for improvement.
There's room for improvement, and things can just change quickly.
Really quickly.
Yeah.
So the goal for this next year
is be as strong as our bench press.
All right.
But we are working on that. The last thing is shiny objects, and this is more in your realm, but it was eye-opening to see on paper that we had spent $1 million in equipment.
Yeah.
In 2024.
Equipment, fixed assets, stuff like that. stuff that's not your general supply, the everyday thing that gets used and thrown out, but all that equipment. I mean, a good amount of that has to do with growth, right? Like as we've built new offices or we've remodeled offices, they have to have additional equipment, more equipment. But then there's been a lot of investment in technology, in different things for the office. And so we've definitely had to take this last quarter, especially with the banking changes, is just reevaluate a want versus a need. What is actually something that we can that we actually have to have right now versus what might be really nice to have. And we can look at doing that in the future in 2026, 2025, 2026. But just looking at it more closely instead of just saying yes to everything. Yes. It's a season of saying no sometimes.
Yeah.
Or pausing and just thinking about it a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, I think just guarding your wallet is good advice. Even on the personal side, this came out where when you have a bank, you have to sign a personal guarantee if you're one of the owners. And we had always reinvested in the business so much. Some of these banks didn't like our personal financial statements.
Yeah.
Because it's just had been all about growth. And if we needed money, and we'll put money in.
The company's gotten larger, and so therefore there's more debt too. As to grow, you have to bring on debt to buy these practices or build these practices.
Yeah.
And the startups that we've done, like you talked about with Jonathan on the last episode, is like they take a lot of cash, a lot more than we thought initially. And so the bank wants to make sure that you guys, as the owners, if you're personal guaranteeing it, that you have, your finances look really good and you have a lot of money liquid.
Yeah. I think just like there's people and things trying to get our attention of time, they're trying to get your money as well. And even at the practice level, like little things that you don't think are a big deal, if you can say no and not get it, if you multiply that times 17,
it grows
over the course of time. It really grows.
Yeah, and it's a lot of like simple things that we've been doing to just do minor changes, like a small change snowballs when you scale it times 17.
Yeah.
A lot of those small operational things that we've changed, looking at, what we're spending on, our internet, our insurance, our like all the things that we have to have, but how can we use our size to maybe negotiate a better deal? How can we take those things and maybe they're up for a new contract, but we just haven't looked at it in years because it's a practice that's just been on autopilot. And like now all of a sudden, we're finding, hundreds of dollars every month that we are saving. So I think that's going to be helpful to set us up for the next phase once the banking situation gets, fixed up.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and I think shiny objects is a real thing for a lot of people. It's difficult to say no to, but I think for us, what we're now establishing going forward is making sure that whatever we're spending money on, we're truly going to get the return on it that makes it worth it. Because we just cared about growth. We just cared about production. And now we're thinking more profit. So
for sure, we're excited to see where we go.
For sure,
2025 is going to be great.
25 will be great. 25 will be great. So quick recap: we talked about the value of a coach. We talked about balancing kids, work, and fitness. Our view on time and where we are as a company as far as banking and being more profitable in general. So hopefully people learn from it. I know we learned a lot this year. And like I said, I look forward to the next time we're talking about 25.
For sure. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you.